Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Larry Bjork, your chairman of this committee. Luke Wilsey has had another commitment, so if things get really bad, we'll have to fall down here on the county board vice chairman, Mr. Stein, but he can handle that. Well, listen, so the meeting is called to order. Just so everybody knows, everybody, I don't know you, so you want to introduce yourself and we'll go around and.
Yes, I'd be happy to introduce myself. I am Becky Albright and I am the new deputy director. And I took Dale's spot, if any of you knew Dale. And my friend Tracy here invited me today. I'm just trying to get a feel for everything that goes on in our building and among our very large team. So I was happy to find the time in my calendar. So thanks for letting me join your party.
Yeah. Yep.
Gary Steen, Vice Chair of the County Board. Pleased to be here.
Chris Olson.
Good. Well,
I know that Heather Jurek is now the director, she's the coordinator at the dance program, which is the dementia daycare.
oh,
So which is on Mondays and Tuesdays, so she might not be able to, I don't know.
oh,
She has, yeah. I'll give her update too,
Yeah.
so, yep.
okay. Do we have any communications from anybody or any public person to address the group?
We do not.
Okay, well then, we look for approval of the May 15th meeting. And I don't think I was here at the 15th.
No, Luke ran that.
That's right. I was trying to get corn planted.
I know we approve it the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
There is,
Oh, yeah.
I will add Sherry, your name to the call of the roll for that meeting.
Okay, anything else? Well, then the motion or all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, here we come. Yeah,
School lets out at 1 o'clock in River Heights, and it's impossible to get anywhere.
yeah. Sitting in with us is Becky Albright down here. She's an assistant to,
To Paula, I'm the deputy director.
okay. Oh, okay.
Maria Benhouse.
Thank you. Okay, I guess public comment it is coming next. And there wasn't any public comment. Next reminds me of an old song. We'll see you in September. Is that how that goes?
Right.
You know, I just had my 55th class reunion also this last weekend. And you wouldn't think an old buck like me would get flutters and nervous talking to some of the girls that you didn't talk to maybe that much years ago. But I did. It was great. I'm not done. But you know, we had a really nice discussion. I'll just take a minute. We had a really nice discussion. And you know, there's less and less people that graduated from 68 that are showing up and decided this would be the last class reunion formally. But the discussion got started about how is the class that's graduating now different from us in the class of 68? And it kind of started out with a discussion on, you know, people who might have not been recognized or left behind or didn't have the opportunities that kids today have. And the first thing that came up, and thank goodness I mentioned this because my wife always tells me, no women's sports. So if you got any granddaughters, you know, they're sported up to more than one sport. And then totally unbeknownst to me, the guy that organized the meeting talked about how there were 7 kids in our graduating class that were in the special ed room. and how they did not, or were not invited, to the ceremony of graduation to walk across the stage, and their graduation certificate was just put on the desk at school on the Friday of graduation. Thank goodness things have changed. And we had one special ed student that was at the graduation that we all knew, but I don't think any of us had any idea, how he was excluded, and just a sad thing. So that's what it's like, and besides getting the flutters ahead.
Should I put in the minutes? Larry just, in public comment, Larry discussed the flutters. he
The
got.
flutters of the
Yes.
1968. And the other thing is, as we all know, years ago, it seemed like people that were in their 40th or 50th or 60th class reunion seemed to be elderly, but that isn't the case anymore. They just look,
Younger and
they
younger.
just look younger and younger every year. Guys like Gary in particular.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that silliness. But it was, I really think that, well, what are we talking about? ADRC. We really started to do things that we probably should have done and have not done in the past. So that's a good thing. Where do I go from here?
Staff reports.
Staff report.
I got a question on this, meeting in September. Is that for both the nutrition?
That
and
is,
the-
yep, both
Okay.
nutrition, Gary, and
Okay.
regular ADRC. So nutrition will be first as usual, and then the ADRC will follow right afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, staff
Okay,
report.
so, Margie noted as well, Heather Jerry, who is has been a wonderful member of our committee for several years. She did request to step down, because she did take the position as the coordinator of the DADS program, the Dementia Adult Day Services at the Senior Center, which I think she will be wonderful at, and that's such a wonderful resource that we refer many people to, and it's so needed. So, so we will have an open position on the board that I will be recruiting for. I do have an interested party that I think would fit very, very well, but if any of you have potential people that you think would be good fits for the board, I would really appreciate you referring them to me. I'm going to put something in our next newsletter, just that there's this opportunity for folks if they're interested. And then if we get more than one interested party, I'll kind of meet with all the parties and we'll go from there. So I wanted to make you aware of that. My next order of business is just to update you on the ILSP program that we've been talking about, the Independent Living Supports Pilot. I had the opportunity to speak on WQOW, so it's still on their website if anybody wants to see my little interview that I did with them, but that was great. Once the state released their press release about the program and that Dunn County was one of the counties that was participating, they reached out to us and I did that. The state has delayed the initial start of it, not by much. We were supposed to start being able to enroll people on July 11th, and they did push that back. We're having a soft beginning of the program on July 24th. There's a complication with, they're devising a computer system between the state and the agency that will administer the financial piece of the, so if somebody submits a bill or something like that, they're developing a computer system and it's not quite ready yet. So starting on the 24th, we'll be able to start reaching out to people and start talking to them about the program, doing screening and even doing paper versions of the application with them, but they won't be able to officially be enrolled until that computer system is up and running. I know that They hoped it would be not too big of a delay, hopefully sometime in August, but they didn't want to give us a date until they knew a date for sure. So a small little hiccup there, but I think that's something that can be anticipated whenever you're developing a brand new program from start. So it's been very interesting to be a part of. I did want to introduce to you, we have hired our 2 staff program assistants, Mary Lindberg, well, Mary, if you want to wave at folks, and Kathleen Chensley. So they both started just on July 3rd with the ADRC. They've been doing a lot of training, catching up on all the recorded trainings that the state has provided on the program. And then just coming up with game plans of how we're going to move forward. They've been looking at some of the marketing materials, and we've been talking about some of the ways that we can market the program a little bit more once that July 24th date comes. And both of them will be spending time in all 3 counties. So for example, Mary this week will be joining Chippewa County for their staff meeting in order to get to know those staff and those sort of things. So they are our 2 wonderful staff members that I'm super excited. They've been a wonderful fit with the ADRC. We've enjoyed having them and have a lot of experience, and I think that it will go very well. So that Mary Lindberg and Kathleen Chensley. But so the program is really, you know, I think we're as ready as we can be for the launch. Each county right now, I think we have about 35 people on the Dunn County waiting list, and we're going to be gathering the waiting lists from Eau Claire and Chippewa County. But from me talking to the directors there, it sounds like they had about the same numbers in their counties. So we already have kind of a good amount of folks that have expressed interest, at least initial interest in the program. And again, that we're limited to 430 enrollment slots amongst all 3 counties. And the program will run from July 24th until March 30th of 2025. So people will be able to enroll until March, the last day of March in 2024, because once they're enrolled, then they have up to 12 months to spend those funds. So these next few months are going to be incredibly busy for Mary and Kathleen, you know, about a 9-month period to enroll 430 people into a program. It's a big, big program, but we sure are excited. Like I have told you in the past, we're one of only 13 pilot projects in the whole state. And we're really excited and really hoping that we're going to be able to provide some really great data. So this might be a program that continues beyond just the pilot project.
Well, every project can't be the same. So is there
Yep.
a different dollar amount, or is there a
Yep.
copay
So
or?
People, so the projects are all the same in terms of how it will run, where people will have up to $7,200 to spend.
Okay.
But each county or each project received a different number of enrollment slots. So for example, I think Dane County got 1,300 enrollment slots. Milwaukee County got a large amount. I believe we were the 3rd highest amount of granted slots in the state. So we're the third largest project, if I'm not mistaken.
But of the projects in Dunn County, Chippewa and Eau Claire,
Yep.
each project isn't exactly the same amount, is it, or is it?
Well, it's 430 for the 3-county area, and so it doesn't, we did not devise it to say, oh, Eau Claire County would have 200, you know, Chippewa County would have 100, Dunn County would have 130. We didn't do anything like that. It's the state very much wants this on a first come, first served basis. So it truly is going to be based on when a person expressed interest and got added to the list. And then when they, you know, when they're found eligible and enrolled. So it's possible that Dunn County could get 200 enrollees and Eau Claire County would have less. We would assume it would be kind of based on population, which Eau Claire County has a larger population than Dunn, but there's not a specific number that will go to each
But the
county.
dollar amount for each project.
It's,
I mean, what if a project only costs $5,000?
oh, I see what you're saying, Larry. So if somebody does not spend their full $7,200, we need to inform the state that they're not going to spend that, and that will go back to the state The state may issue additional enrollment slots if they get, like if, let's say, or they said, for example, if somebody is enrolled and they pass away before they've spent all the money, they didn't want counties to say, oh, well, Jim Smith only spent $2,000 and so he has $5,200 and we can, enroll somebody for 5,200. They want all the money to go back and then they will issue new slots if they have availability to do so, which they anticipate they might.
Tracy?
Yes.
Is there a requirement that it's paid back upon death or upon selling the properties?
No, this is not tied to asset
Okay,
like that, like Medicaid is.
okay.
I will say that's the way they've set this up as a pilot. I have a feeling, just personally, that if this, was picked up as a full program, that would be maybe up for discussion again. But with this pilot project, there will be no expectation of like the estate repaying those funds. Sherry? Oh, I'm sorry, Larry. you
Oh,
can-
go share.
I was just going to ask, is there like a list that shows the criteria that they have to
We
meet?
have, yep, we've put that on, that will be on our marketing materials and it was on the materials that the state put out too. So you'll be seeing more and more about that. But in general, the basic criteria of the program is that folks have to be 18 to 54 with a diagnosed disability. And they have to have a functional need. So that means like they have some need for care. They have difficulty walking. They have difficulty doing what we call an activity of daily living. So something that you need to do to care for yourself during the day. You have difficulty understanding and taking your medications. You need help with bathing. You need help with transportation, those sorts of things. If you're 55 and older, you do not need a diagnosis of a disability, but you do have to have at least one functional need. So again, have to have some sort of assistance with some of those activities of daily living. And that will be things that Kathleen and Mary are going over with people when they're screening them. The state has developed paperwork and that sort of thing that we'll have to complete in order to find out if they really are eligible for the program. And then the financial requirement is that people can have up to 300% of the federal poverty level, which is quite a bit different from many of our other programs that provide those services. Most of the other programs require that somebody be eligible for Medicaid, and folks who are eligible for Medicaid have had to spend their assets down quite a bit more considerably than that.
Do you have, I know you gave this to us before, what is that for Dunn County, the poverty level?
I'll look it up again really quickly, Margie. I should have had it pulled up. So 300% of the federal poverty level is $43,740. 43,740 per individual.
Or individual?
Individual.
Yeah.
Okay. Tracy?
Yes.
On the contractors, have they decided how that's gonna work? Because I've been trying to get my brother some stuff and I've been told it's 2026.
I will say, I think that that's been a concern that every single county has brought up, is that just because we suddenly have a program that has funding doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have this plethora of workers that can provide those services. So there's not, there's not an approved contractors list. There's not like we're not contracting with care providers, like folks who need somebody to come into their home and provide care. There is going to be some expectation that folks will be looking for those providers on their own, which will be a challenge. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. We will help to the extent that we can in terms of providing lists of people that we already have in the ADRCs that are, good workers and vetted, that sort of thing. In some circumstances, people will be able to have family members that provide care for them. And that will be approved similar to one of the long-term care programs called IRIS, where that's quite common. And there will be a process for them to get background checks and all that stuff to be approved to be those types of paid caregivers for their family members. But we don't have like a pool of providers, so that certainly will definitely be an issue. You know, like I said, just because suddenly there's some funds to pay for things that people might not have had before, doesn't mean that there will be that we somehow have secret providers or contractors or something that have agreed to just work in this program. I wish we did, but that's just not the way it'll be. So that will definitely be a challenge.
So people can, on their own, hire someone, but they might need to go through the people here to, even if it's somebody in their church or somebody, a neighbor or a family
It
member.
will actually be the third party financial administrator that will be doing those background checks and that
Okay.
sort of thing. But yes, people can have their own, locate their own caregiver. And again, that caregiver would go through the background checks and have to register with that third party that would actually be paying them. And that's who they would submit like their time card to and that sort of thing.
Okay, would they need to have liability or anything like that?
I don't think so. In those
Okay.
programs, that's not usually required of a family caregiver in the IRIS program. And that's what they're basing this program off of, is kind of that IRIS, the guidelines for IRIS.
Thanks.
Who's ever next?
Go ahead. So we're talking next Monday? You're gonna start taking applications?
Well, we have the waiting list. Yep,
Yeah.
we will start, it's what they're calling a soft launch. So Monday is the first day that we can start connecting with the folks that are on our list and start doing more marketing. I'm not, we're not giving any sort of time frame for people of when they might actually be enrolled and be able to start using those funds, because that won't happen until they actually have that computer system set up, and they haven't given us that date yet. So we're just kind of, the state wants us to call it a soft launch when we're not openly, I don't think we're really advertising and saying, oh, as of the 24th, you can be enrolled in this program, because that's not the case. But that's the first date that we are kind of going to be allowed to really market the program and also start connecting with people and start doing some of the paperwork process to see if they're eligible, and get done as much paperwork as we can until that actual enrollment date.
I think I'm just sort of having this mental image of my dog once I get the can of dog food out on the counter.
Yeah,
And then I think about 3 dogs on 3 counters in the same room,
right.
and it's like, oh my.
Right. I think we've been kind of discreet in terms of like actually putting that the 24th, because again, we're calling it a soft launch. The state calls it a soft launch because they didn't want, people to just expect, oh, the 24th, I'm going to be able to get in this program and rush the doors of the ADRC demanding to get in the program. I think the way we will be starting it in our counties is just starting to make contacts with those folks that are on the waiting list. That'll be a good way too for us to kind of be able to start, Kathleen and Mary are going to be learning the forms. The first couple of folks that they work with, it's going to be a big learning experience for all of us, so that we can kind of do that in an orderly way and get that experience in.
When you talk about the criterion for disability, is that a permanent or a lifelong disability?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
it's not a disability that comes from an injury, perhaps when they're an
Correct.
adult or
That's,
something.
yep,
like
it's
that.
that you have a permanent disability.
Okay.
Yep.
As I understand, you already have some people on the list
Yep.
that have expressed an
Interest.
interest. So
Yep.
those would be the kind you'd be starting out.
Those are the folks that we
Yeah.
would start with. And then as other people continue to call, we'll just continue to add them to the list. Once we've filled our 430 enrollment slots, the state actually wants us to continue to take people on the waiting list for 2 reasons. One, there may be additional slots that are granted. So they want us to keep that, what if we get another 100 slots for some reason, then we would have those folks, ready and perhaps more able to move forward quickly. Number 2, for statistical purposes, when they are compiling the data, I think they want to be able to show the federal government, across the state of Wisconsin, there's a total of 5,000 enrollment slots. So I think what they want to do is be able to say, yes, we were able to fill these 5,000 slots, and we also have a waiting list of appropriate candidates of this many to show that there is a need for this type of a program. So.
I'm sorry, but can you just review again, and maybe you had done that already, just exactly how people are becoming aware of this program?
We haven't really pushed marketing yet because
Yeah.
we were kind of asked to hold off until the 24th. The state did issue their press release, and we did get some interest from that. We
Okay.
got some calls after we did after I did the TV18 interview. We, as the 3 ADRCs involved, we have actually, because we've known that we've had this grant from January, the state did say if there are people that you recognize that you've met with and they haven't been eligible for another program
Yeah.
because of finances or whatever the case may be, but they fit with this program, you can, ask if they would be interested in more information. And then when the program actually opens, you can contact them again and see if they're still interested in the program or if they still meet those requirements. So.
Okay.
And there has already been some word of mouth. I've had people call me. I spoke at a dementia care support group, and some folks from there called and got their loved ones on the waiting list. And we're not calling it a waiting list, we're calling it an interest list because we can't 100% sure say that those folks will be eligible for the program, but basically it's just, we will be contacting them to find out if they're still interested and then going through the screening to see if they're actually eligible for the program.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, my only concern is that sometimes, and I'm sure everyone knows this, I mean, if you have a family member or that has a disability, sometimes you are so pressed and busy that you don't have any time to look at the news, to be able to catch that, this might be available to you. And sometimes those are the people that need it the most.
Right. And all 3 counties, we intend to do a lot of different types of marketing outreach, our newsletters. We do have some funding to do newspaper advertisements in newspapers other than our newsletters. Again, if they have had connection with the ADRCs in the county, the workers that work with them are aware of the program and have been keeping people in mind that would be appropriate. Again, some of them might forget because some of these folks went on the list in January and they might not really remember exactly what the program is, but we're able to do that outreach and say, hey, you met with us in February and we talked a little bit about this program and now it's up and running, and re-explain it to them to see if it's something that they're interested in. That's always a struggle with ADRCs, is getting the word out that we're here and these are the services and please come see us. And unfortunately, sometimes it is the folks that are struggling the most that don't have the time or the ability to spend time looking for these sorts of resources. And that's why we just really do our best to try to get out there in the community and spread the word. So.
Good discussion.
We're very,
Glad you know
very,
what's going on,
yeah,
girl,
we're very.
young lady, woman.
Any of those are
Digging
fine
himself
for
out.
me. But we're really, honestly, we are really, I'm really excited about this program. I couldn't be more
Yeah.
thrilled that we were selected
Yeah.
to be one of the pilot projects. And I just am so hopeful that it is successful and something that might be able to be expanded and continued, because I do think it can just provide an incredible amount of help for folks that, they need the help. While they don't meet the financial requirements of current programs, they still don't have the financial means
Right.
necessarily to pay for these things on their own. So it really just does open a lot of doors for folks that haven't been eligible for these types of helps in the past.
Did ADRC fund an independent living program in the past, like a
The-
bunch of years ago?
Nope, Sherry, this is brand new. The state, it's called BADR. It's the Bureau of Aging and Disability Resources. That's the state agency that ADRCs respond to. they made I really have to give them credit because they made a case with the federal government to be able to use leftover ARPA or COVID money that they received in a little bit different way, rather than COVID education and that sort of thing. They requested a special project. So this is the only project like this in the country. And and the federal government did give them special permission because this isn't tied to COVID education. We don't have, I mean, it is ARPA, the Rescue Plan Act dollars, but we don't have to tie it to, COVID in any way.
I would say too, that the other unique thing about our county, I can't speak to the other counties, but the two women that we have back there that were selected for this position have the experience, the demeanor, and the degrees to back up this position. So we are in a very fortunate state to have such qualified candidates under Tracy's leadership. So we're pretty
yes.
excited.
We're very excited with Kathleen and Mary. I've just been thrilled having them because sometimes when you start a new project, and you're training in new staff, there's education and there's those sorts of things, but there can be some downtime, especially when you're waiting for the program to actually get started. These two have not had any downtime. They're thinking of things to do. They're organizing resource. I mean, it's just been fantastic. I've been so happy to have them on the team. So I feel like we got the right folks in the right spots. So that's always exciting.
Gary, are you paying them by the head?
No, they're just gonna get their regular pay, Gary, not by how many they sign up.
They wrestle in or?
Yes. I honestly do not think we will have any trouble filling the 430 slots in our 3 counties, and I think we will have a substantial waiting list.
Yeah.
Once the word really gets out there and people realize the flexibility of the program, that's another really nice thing. It's not just for caregivers, it's not just for equipment, it can be used as long as we're able to show that it's something that will help somebody stay safely in their own home. Really, there's probably a reason why those sorts of expenses can be approved.
I have one question or one more about the level. You said 43,740 per individual. So you have a couple.
Yep.
That is, and if you combine their incomes, it's more than that.
So that was a very interesting discussion because I actually asked for clarification for that because I wasn't really sure and I didn't know if it would go based on just the individual's income or if it would be like in a married couple, you'd go by the household of 2, but they did clarify it is just the individual's income. So it's possible that you could have a married couple where one person is eligible and one person is not. They'll just be looking at the one individual's income.
Okay, because, okay, that clarifies it, and that, because, if you're not counting assets, then then that makes it so that
Yeah.
it's very possible. More
assets
people.
are not included in this, which is also different from the Medicaid application. So
Okay.
it's just income.
Well, I can say that if Dunn County did not have an ADRC that was on the ball, and some counties don't have ADRC, right?
Well, every county actually does have, some of them are shared. There are some shared counties, but every county is served by an ADRC, I should say. Not every county has its own individual office.
But our application was highlighted because the 3 counties joined together.
Right, they're very interested in this, we're the only county that did it as a joint project. And they've specifically said several times that they find this very interesting and find, I think that's a good reason why we were granted because it was a little bit unique. And I think they want to evaluate to see if doing it this way saves resources, which I think it does, like our 3 county area, we have 2 workers. And in many counties, there's, they don't have another county to share a worker with. So I think that they're very interested to see if this might be a cost-effective way to run this program.
Great. Super duper great.
I just have one other thing to say. This county is very lucky to have you, Tracy.
Oh, Sherry, thank you.
It's true.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess, do we need to vote on that? No.
No, that was just, there's nothing to vote on this month.
Okay, motion passed. Okay. Yeah. Are we about done? Or,
That's the last of my staff report.
oh, okay, consideration action taken by the advisory committee. Anything else? Wow, we didn't have much time here,
No,
but
it
we
was-
certainly have done what we're supposed to do. Anybody else have any activity?
This is
coming up?
not an activity, but what kind of consideration can we bring to, I mean, I,
So my understanding, Margie, and I might need to clarify because I'm still learning, the consideration section is when I have things I need you to vote on. So like a big example of that is in November, we always have the transportation committee meets with us. And that's our big thing that we have to get passed is that 8521 grant that the transportation committee votes on. But the area where people could bring things for for us to talk about would be under public
Public
comment.
comment.
Yeah.
okay,
I will clarify that to be sure that my understanding is correct on that, but I think that's the way that works.
okay, just trying to understand what the terminology on the paper
Yep.
means
In-
for us.
There are several meetings that we have no items for consideration because they're not things that require a vote. But that, again, if you had things that you wanted to bring forward or discuss or have the group discuss, it would be that public comment. Or Gary might, yes.
Yeah, and I think if you want something on the agenda, you get a hold of Tracy and then she'll put it on the agenda. And the board here can't take any action unless it's an action item, if you know what I mean. So consideration of actions, it would be listed there. But if you have any concern or anything that you want on the agenda to be discussed, get a hold of Tracy and she can put it on there. And then it'll be on the agenda. So it doesn't get overlooked or forgotten.
I would agree, Gary. Yes, I'm the one who writes up the agenda, so I'm the gal to contact if you have something
Another
that,
pronoun.
yeah.
Oh, my. Well, the only thing I have to add, and as far as things coming up is, everybody is certainly welcome to the Dunn County Fair next week. And does ADRC ever have been a booth there?
We have had booths before COVID, Larry. I have to look into doing it again.
Yeah.
That was before my time, so I don't know how successful it was, but Sarah Olinger, who is still with the county, was the ADRC director at the time that they had that. So that's kind of one of my thoughts is to talk about it.
They've got a real nice, space in the hockey area for
Right.
booths with the concrete floor and the batting
Yep.
between them and they put me in charge of that building. And I says, the only thing I don't want you to do if you got an aisleway, don't put the Democrats straightly across the Republicans. Just spread them out just a little bit. But if nothing else, if they were across from each other, more than likely both of them be staffed the whole fair time. So the fair coming up and it's a great activity. Lot of youth stuff, quite a bit of entries this year in the open class. I think one lady had 70 some entries in her open class, whatever, all the way from quilts to I don't know what else, everything. And in the air conditioned Maryland Finetti room by the one indoor bathroom. My son's in the plumbing business, so I shouldn't be saying we need more indoor bathrooms, but or that's porta potties. So there's an indoor bathroom and it's air conditioned. The group that has the used books are in there. And those ladies have some really well-trained husbands when you see the boxes and boxes that are carried in. Because that looks like a lot of work. So, Gary?
Yes, I think it would be time and effort well spent, Tracy, if the ADRC would have a booth down there just to raise the awareness for the people in the county of what's available here. And then I was also going to ask you, I can talk to Leanne Ralph, the reporter. Would you like her to call you regarding this ILSP?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
Leanne, she did a really nice article
Yeah.
last fall with me, just
Yeah.
about general ADRC stuff. I enjoyed working with her. So
Yeah.
if she wants to do another article, I'd be more than happy to give her that info.
Yeah, I think anything we can do to raise the awareness, a lot of people aren't even aware of what's available or where to go. So I think anything we could do to raise our profile would be good. Thank you.
And every day is gonna be sunny and about 72 degrees.
No
With a
storm.
Slight wind, no hail.
no
I mean, it
tornadoes.
won't be as crazy and wild as the Colfax World's Fair, but it will be enjoyable.
You know, I just want to say it's nice to have ADRC be available at the fair, but staff time to man that would be a concern. And I don't know if you have volunteers that, whether it's board members or volunteers that work with ADRC that are informed enough to be able to share that information. I think it would be worthwhile to have half a dozen or a dozen volunteers that are kind of on call to help with things like that, because I just don't know if it's if staff time should be used for
Right.
doing that.
And that's,
It's
I mean, I
just-
think that's part of the thing is just the capacity of what we have for staff, but again, it's definitely on my interest list to try to do more research. I see, I definitely see the positives to being available too. Sometimes I think too, and I don't know the rules of the Dunn County Fair, but I know some fairs, you can have times that are staffed and sometimes that aren't. You can just have information available. So part of it would be just me understanding that kind of what the guidelines are. And, I know in many counties don't participate in the county fair, many do. I've kind of looked at the different ways people do it, and some of them will have like, ADRC day at the fair, and then like that day they're fully staffed, and other times they just have information available to take. So I've considered a couple different ways to do it, and like I said, I want to talk to the previous manager too to see how they did it and if they got good feedback and a good draw to their booth. So, but this year with everything else going on with starting new projects and stuff, it wasn't the year for me to kind of delve into all of that.
Sheriff's Department is always there, so I don't know if we could have half a table next to them with just literature, but there's ways to do things, but
Right.
you can't, and other than if you're selling something, then you kind of have to be there.
Right.
But if you have information, it's sometimes just have information available and who to contact works too, but then, somebody's got to put together information and
Yep.
that kind of stuff, but
Unless I get more grants, which I know probably would be good if I did, but unless I do, that's on my list to kind of assess for next year. Cause we like to support the fair too.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm all in favor of grants, especially
Yeah.
those ones you can fold in half, put in your pocket. Okay, jeepers. Good meeting here, folks. I sure appreciate everybody being here. And is there anything else on activities that anybody wants to discuss? Well, I guess we'll just call the meeting adjourned and thank you for coming out.
I do have just
I'd like to thank you ladies